Greetings, fellow sentients, near and far. You've turned into This Week I'm Learning, the podcast where a group of friends delivers the knowledge painstakingly gathered mere minutes before recording and transmitting to your awaiting receptors. This is episode 78, recorded February 14th, 2022, which is Valentine's Day here in the state. Hopefully y'all had a good one, single or coupled. I am your host, Brandon Vader, also known as Captain Dracanis. Down below me, we have Seeker4761, also known as Colton Roper. Directly next door to me, I have Cody Stratman, also known as Psychonitrous. And then down in the corner, because apparently that's where we're putting Tim today, is Tim Rhind, also known as Fake Farang. So, yeah. Did you guys all have a good day today?
Yes.
Yes.
Just the start of the day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Valentine's Day was yesterday.
Yeah.
Today.
You guys are living in the future.
Made some poor choices on the restaurant to go to while having a nice view. Let's just say it took three and a half hours to get through. Now, it was like a 6 or 7 course meal, but it was like 30 to 40 minutes in between each course. And by the end of it, we were still kind of hungry. Yeah.
So then you got some good street food on the way, right?
I went to 7-Eleven and got a pork burger. Yeah.
Romantic.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those things that I keep needing to learn, that it's not the amount of, money does not equal quality, or money definitely does not equal taste. I would have, during the entire night, I would have killed for the 80 baht or the 40 baht, cowman guy place that I love so much.
Sometimes in Thailand, I find that customer service and good business practices are not always there. There's some places that they've got it right. I don't know, maybe they had some training in the West, or maybe they're just more conscientious about it. But it's just like you said, sometimes you'll get your main course served before your appetizer, or you will get one person finishes their meal before the other person even gets their meal.
Well, I think
I've seen that happen quite a few times too.
Yeah,
and then more so with expensive, more a little bit middle to expensive restaurants.
Honestly, I think that part is more to do with the difference between Thai style food and Western style food. Because with Thai style, you're usually sharing a few dishes, so it doesn't matter the order they arrive, versus Western style where everybody has their own plate. So that thing I can give them a pass on. That's...
But if they're serving Western food, then it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we still live in Thailand, so...
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
sounds like you at least had a interesting experience.
Yeah. It was interesting and long.
Okay. Well, cool. This week we're going back to rotation, so Cody is going to be the peanut gallery for today. Colton, you are feeling loopy?
Loopy, woo!
Okay.
Loopy. And Tim is going to talk about dark clouds. Meteorological or something else?
Something else.
Ooh.
Yeah, something I learned today that I didn't realize, and like scrambling for a topic. So I hope it hasn't been covered. I haven't seen all the episodes, so.
Okay.
You haven't watched all 77 episodes?
Yeah.
For shame.
Yeah.
That's okay. Neither have I.
So I guess I'm doing Brandon, fake girls and default passwords.
Yes.
Sounds spicy.
Yeah.
Spicy. Was
Believe me,
definitely an interesting way to end the day yesterday.
Yeah. I got a fake girls story for you as well. Something you guys, yeah. a lot of people, yeah, continue. They'll come in later.
Okay. Well, Colton, take us home, or take us off.
Son of
Don't
a...
take us home.
I was like, all right, well, thank you for watching This Week I'm Learning. You can find... I'm just kidding. Anyways, son of a bitch. Where am
Apparently
I?
we're all feeling loopy.
It's good. It's good. Keeps it interesting. But Brandon, it's actually kind of interesting because you're actually the one that kind of inspired this topic, at least kind of tangentially. When you posted that video on Discord, that was done by one of my favorite game reviewers, Yahtzee Croshaw.
Yes.
I think we've talked about him before, way back in like episode 12. Did something about the World of Warcraft game breaking, world killing bug or something. And actually, I kind of remember when both you and Cody introduced me to his work like a million years ago when we were still working at that ISP in Colorado. So it's become one of my key rotations of things to watch on YouTube. Yahtzee Croshaw, Zero Punctuation. Watch the shit out of that guy. Amazing.
Oh, yeah.
So in addition to being a game critic, he is actually also a game designer. I don't know if you guys knew that, but he actually is a developer as well for many games, a single developer. And on his podcast, Slightly Something Else, he was talking about what makes a good game, and he mentioned something called game loops or gameplay loops. Have you guys ever heard of this term in terms of game design?
Yes. But I
figured Brandon has. I would hope so. Brandon, yeah. Jesus.
I've heard
The coder better have found out about this shit. So, for anyone who doesn't know, it is actually a fundamental part of game design, and it is integral for a user to enjoy said game. There are actually three basic types of gameplay loops. There's the primary gameplay loop, the secondary loop, and the tertiary loop. There's some other things as well, but those are kind of the big three in terms of this topic. So a primary game loop, they're essentially the core mechanics of a game. Or to put it another way, it's the moment-to-moment aspect of gameplay. So it is, as I said, it's a foundation of the game where the player is actually doing something most of the time. So, for example, if you're playing a first-person shooter, you are moving around, aiming at targets, and firing the weapon. That is the core aspect of that type of game. It is incredibly important for a player to enjoy the primary game loop because the player is always doing the primary game loop. It is how the player interacts with the game, basically. It is gameplay stripped down to its basic elements. So, for example, if movement in a first-person shooter feels sluggish, the sound feels wrong, if it just looks bad, that will actually kill the game before it ever gets going. Because you're not enjoying the basic aspects of the game, you're not going to want to play the game. Pretty simple. Now, a secondary gameplay loop gives the player a higher goal of sorts to attempt by using the primary gameplay loop. It could be as simple as completing mission objectives or solving basic puzzles. It's more of the minute-by-minute gameplay versus the moment-to-moment of the primary game loop. So it's just a higher level of gameplay that is still very dependent on the primary gameplay loop. The tertiary gameplay loop is kind of the overall purpose of a game. It is more hour by hour, day by day, week by week, and in some cases month by month, and even year by year gameplay. Think of it, could be as simple as getting a high score, just going for the absolute high score in a traditional arcade game, or progressing through a skill tree, or finishing a story in Call of Duty or whatever. These are considered the long-term goals that are intended for the player, and basically it's the reason to play the damn game at all, at least at this level. Another way to define the tertiary loop is through progression mechanics. So how does a player progress through the game, whether it's, again, going for a high score or anything like that? Just a reason to go forward at all, progress through the game. So let's just think of a game. So let's use like Pac-Man, for example. You have a little yellow cheese wheel looking thing that can move in 4 directions. Yeah, waka waka, in a 2D plane within a defined corridor, and basically you just eat pellets. That is the primary gameplay loop of Pac-Man. Super simple. It makes that waka waka sound. You hear the music in the background. It's very super simple. Nothing too complicated about it. Again, that's the primary loop. It's, like I said, simple and engaging, but lost my notes. But that can actually get pretty boring quickly. So secondarily, the player is trying to complete the levels by eating all the pellets that are on screen while avoiding the ghosts. That is the higher goal that the primary gameplay loop is interacting with, basically. And finally, because there's no real story, as far as I know, in the original Pac-Man, maybe there's some secret thing, I'm pretty sure there isn't. The whole point of the damn game is just to get a high score and get your initials on that thing so you can put S on it, whatever you want to say. That's the whole goddamn point of the fucking game. Simple as that. So any good game will have strong gameplay loops in all three aspects. You could have, and they all are very dependent on each other. So you could have the best fucking level design in the world, you could have the best objectives, and you could have the best damn story that have ever been written. But if your character moves like he's a fucking refrigerator on ice, you're gonna fucking hate the game, because the feeling of the game just feels wrong. But at the same time, you could have a very smooth character with perfect movements, super responsive controls. And if that's the whole game, you don't have a game, really. You have game mechanics.
A walking simulator.
Yeah, you have a walking simulator. You have a proof of concept. You don't have a game. You need a player can be interested in the primary game loop initially. It's like, hey, when I fire this gun in Halo Infinite, it sounds really good. Like, that's cool. It feels good to me. But if that's all you're doing with no purpose, your player is going to get bored. So you need at least two of them. I've found in my research. You definitely need to have a good primary loop, because again, the game feels bad, no one's going to want to play it, and you have to have a reason to at least kind of play the game through with the primary game mechanics. You can survive without a tertiary, but you need to have at least a primary and a secondary. So I would say Minecraft is probably an example of this, where it has an excellent, amazing primary gameplay loop. It's super, super tight, feels good, is fast. Secondary and tertiary are honestly a bit more unclear. Like secondary, yeah, you can use those blocks to build things. It's something, but tertiary, there's really not any reason to play the game besides, yeah, there's some weak quests in there. There's some end game bosses you could do, but it's not really.
Tertiary doesn't really exist.
Doesn't really. It's there, but you could also think of the tertiary being, hey, our goal is to it's a player defined tertiary goal. Like, what do you want to accomplish? I want to build this fucking giant base with this awesome sorting system or whatever. Like that's could be arguably the tertiary.
Or the tertiary is your mind. Like here's the thing. Like Minecraft is one of the best selling, if not the best selling game of all time.
It's up there, yeah.
So it's interesting that it lacks one of those gameplay loops, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't in the development of the game, but it does because the player creates their own gameplay loop.
And that's why some people cannot stand fucking Minecraft, because just they're not into the mind aspect of it, the creativity part of it. They don't find any enjoyment in that. So the primary loop, which again is very strong, gets boring super fucking fast for these type of players. A lot of survival games arguably have the same problem. You could hit the whole game. The point of the game is to survive, and you're kind of like, that's kind of a hollow feeling. There's no ending. That's something else I've kind of realized. You have to have an end point for a game, because if there's no end, there's no point. At least in my opinion. I'm sure there's definitely some different opinions on this, but this is kind of, when you think of like the best games, they have an ending. They have a story that ends. Subnautica would be a good example. I think we all, at least some of us have. I don't know if Tim's ever played Subnautica or knows what we're talking about.
No.
Tim, you would like Subnautica, but
Skyrim.
strong primary, yeah. Skyrim also, same kind of thing. The primary, secondary, and tertiary are all very strong. That's why that game is memorable to a culture. Even it's good in all three. Whereas, and I guess there are exceptions. Minecraft's the exception, but in general, you have to have all three to truly make a memorable game and a memorable gameplay experience. So, kind of interesting. Again, I'm kind of been getting into the game design aspect of games because I do review games now. And after kind of studying these gameplay loops, I'm going to start using the terminology because it's actually a very good way to break down a game to why you even enjoy or hate the game. So that's what I learned about this week. So kind of interesting.
That is really cool. That's cool because you can explain why. Yeah, there are certain games that I absolutely detest, and it now will lend explanation to why.
Yeah,
Sorry,
just break it down. Like, why the fuck do I hate this game?
Yep.
Yeah. So kind of interesting, kind of fun. It's there. I found a whole freaking article like from a university where they study this shit. So it's actually utterly fascinating, and the same basic rules apply to any media creation at all, with some aspects like reading. If you're reading a good story, if the primary loop would be the words on the page. Do they make sense? Do grammatically they make sense to you? If it's poorly written, you don't care if it's the best fucking story in the world because it's gonna fucking hurt to just do the basic thing. Getting through the chapters, so on and so. Yeah, and obviously it has a fucking end. There's a story to it, a reason to finish the book, like or a show. It's all very similar in at least its overall concept. So very cool to think about. This it's very analytical in this in reviewing this type of stuff. So I like it. That's how I like to think. So cool shit.
Breaks it down. Yeah,
I like it. Yeah. Thank you.
But
Colton.
yeah. Tim, what's going on with them dark clouds, boy? Man,
well, this is
sorry.
something that was new to me. I mean, I'm talking about the cloud. To me. I always thought of the cloud as well. This is good, you know. You're talking about less paper in the world, less environmental impact, et cetera, et cetera. But I was watching a show called The Blacklist, and one of the episodes there, one of the killers was, and he wasn't the only one, but he was being sort of driven crazy. He lost his job. He went into depression. He lost his marriage. And he wore a hearing aid, and basically it was one of the problems with cloud or data centers was the noise that comes off of these things, and it comes into it doesn't say which frequency, but a very annoying hum, a very noticeable hum that's coming from data centers, and it's a problem for some people. But anyways, that brought me into looking, and most of my source for this are two articles I found. One MIT Press Reader, and so I don't want to plagiarize, but most of my data is from from two articles. Then I'll provide the links. One of the things is the energy cost of data centers, especially in Virginia, which is the site of 70% of the world's internet traffic. Is drawn from so-called dirty electric grids, and Northern Virginia is the top data center in the U.S. It give you how it is increasing incredibly. In June, there were 78 megawatts used for data center capacity in Northern Virginia. In 4 months later, at the end of September, that number grew to 105 megawatts.
And this is just the one data center in Virginia, or is this?
No. There's multiple. There's about 5 or 6 data centers in
oh yeah,
Virginia.
so it's the overall of Virginia. Okay.
Yeah, but we're not talking about Google or Amazon, which aren't even included in these. And we all know that servers take energy, and then there's cooling fans in the components themselves, but they usually have air conditioners on standby. And cooling is actually 40% of the energy consumption in a data center. And then they also talk about that there's a lot of smaller data centers. And yeah, I've seen this as well, whether it data centers or whether it be even DSLAMs, network hubs. And they tend to use older repurposed buildings, and those buildings aren't optimized for the cooling and the power requirements. Another thing I didn't realize is that a lot of these data centers will also use water as a coolant, and that is to me it sounds ridiculous that in Arizona some data centers are using evaporative cooling, like in Mesa, Arizona, and how much water that consumes in a place that already has a water problem.
Oh yeah, with the water table situation down here in the desert, it's definitely it's actually a very hot topic of political debate down here. Is why why are we doing it here where it's 115 degrees?
Yeah. And as far as the audio thing, here's a quote: "Data centers emit acoustic waste, what environmentalists call noise pollution, and that can affect blood pressure, cortisol, and insomnia." It's a monotonal drone, and it's a frequency that hovers within the range of human speech. And you can imagine if you had a hearing aid which is tuned to the human speech, that's going to really interfere with that. So you've got the energy problems, and some people are suggesting, well, maybe we should put more of these data centers in colder climates. Well, that unfortunately now that might rule out some countries of having their data centers, and as well they talk about having latency
Singapore,
problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. And there's also a problem with regulation. Like Cirrus One is one, I guess, that's in it's in Arizona or Virginia, I can't remember. But they pledged to take steps to attenuate their sound, but they haven't done that to date, and there's no legal enforceable laws that can do that, because the dB level probably is lower than what's considered a problem, but the fact that it's a steady hum can just drive people crazy. So I mean, people want data centers because they think, oh, it's great jobs, lots of jobs, but yeah, there's definitely environmental and huge draw on the power grid. So it kind of brought me to a different thinking of them, that thinking, data centers or what we have these days for the cloud and whatnot. Yeah, it's not completely environmental friendly.
Well, it's interesting. This kind of, you're talking about cooling leads and the usage of water, reminds me of something that we've talked about here on the show, which is Microsoft's underwater, like, little capsule thing. That, yeah. So we're talking about, having data centers in colder climates. What happens if we just use more submergible data centers around the world and have them powered by tidal energy?
It would help areas that happen to have the ocean next to them or a lake.
True.
Yeah.
But if you look at, that's a better alternative, I think, especially with latency, because you look at places like Singapore. Yeah, sure, the water is warm on the surface, but you get deep enough. Of course, Singapore doesn't have a lot of land mass, and I don't know what their actual, ocean ownership around that is, but potentially that could solve some of the issues there.
So
here's another figure. A single data center can consume the equivalent of 50,000 homes.
Could see that.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise
Fucking computers, worst invention ever. they are so inefficient, at least in general. Even though they're getting way better all the time, they're still not very efficient.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff, because I know crypto has been, talked about as a super inefficient use and, environmentally unfriendly use of energy. But a lot of that, the onus is to attempt to get cheaper power for that. So as soon as we get cheaper electricity through environmentally friendly means, then I think we'll be moving massively all of our data centers to away from fossil fuels, which will become more and more expensive, to things like solar, hydro, maybe geothermal, maybe tidal, or even nuclear. Brandon,
Kinda going-
you wanted to say something?
Oh, go ahead, Brandon.
One of the things I was thinking of is I don't know if at scale the underground system or the underwater system would work, because basically once you get
they're very
enough
big.
of those
Yeah.
operating, you're going to change the local temperature of that water, and that could actually end up having even
Other
further
environmental
effect.
effects.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Kind
But
of going back. Sorry, I keep interrupting.
I don't know if anyone's had opportunity to ever actually visit a data center, but one of the things I thought was very interesting when you were talking about the potential health issues with the frequency and the volume of that frequency. So when I worked for United, I actually got to tour one of their would have been data warehouses. So not a full on like large structure, but it was probably, I don't know, basically 1,000 or 1,500 square feet of server farm. And yeah, right there by the door, they had hearing protection. You were required to wear hearing protection as soon as you entered. And even though, like, just because I was curious, I popped an ear out, and it's like, it's okay, it's loud and it's annoying, but it's not that bad. And so I asked the person that I was with, and he brought up the same thing you did. Is it's that
Persistence.
sustained, like if you're in there for more than just 5 or 10 minutes, it can elevate your heart rate, bring up your blood pressure, induce stress, and it can eventually damage your hearing.
Kind of makes me think of just in general this field of study of low frequency, low impact stuff on the human body, but long term. There's a study done on like bobsledders and luge and stuff like that. Speaking of the Olympics that are going on right now, they found that there was a lot of what do you call it? I guess participants who retired actually started suffering from memory loss and stuff like that, and they were never. And don't get me wrong, if you get in a crash at these, it'll fuck you up because you're slamming your head at 80 miles an hour. But these are people who've never gotten in a crash, and they're finding that the small vibrations of the brain just kind of just tapping against your skull over thousands and thousands of runs actually can do damage in the long term. And they're doing a lot of study, and it just makes me think of kind of the same thing with the low hum of these type of these places. Yeah, it doesn't, as you said, it's not a catastrophic event to be near one, but if you're living next to one for 25 years, constantly hearing that, there's no way that doesn't fuck you up. Because we're actually, like, in terms of vibrations and like waves and stuff like that, they're finding that the human body is actually very weak when it comes to repetitive stuff, not just the catastrophic stuff. So it's just interesting. So it's kind of cool that they're at least hopefully considering this type of shit going forward.
Yeah. Now that I know about that, it's definitely not something I would want to live nearby. And I guess it's something that it's not really that public when you think about it. I mean, if a community wants to build a data center, have a data center, everybody's competing to get that data center to build in their community. But then there's other people who are saying, what's it going to do for electricity? What's it going to do to our health? I mean, is it going to be like? I guess they'll have to put stipulations in that they figure out a way to keep that sound inside, not getting outside. But so don't buy a house near a data center. One other thing, just change the subject slightly. I have a map up on the screen, and I just found it interesting. I'm not going to do this as a topic, and it's not. It is a visual thing, and this is an audible podcast. But I'll show you these dots, and what I found very interesting. Yeah, I knew about Cambodia and I knew about Laos, but I didn't realize there were so many in Thailand. All those dots. I have to move away for a second. All those dots represent bombs dropped during the Vietnam War.
Oh wow.
You can just
Yeah, if you
can
cover
cover
your
your camera.
webcam and it blocks you.
Okay. Yeah, it really does block me, but it blocks everything
Oh.
else.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah,
That's
it
weird.
It doesn't always work. Like with with
Yeah.
certain webcams.
Yeah. Fair
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah. So that's actually quite a few dropped in Thailand, and I'm really surprised, and I wonder why. There's no story in the article about why.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Wonder what the long-term effects of bombs are.
Well, those are still problems.
Probably not good.
Places like Cambodia and Laos,
that's huge.
people are still getting killed by
It's a
by
common
bombs.
issue.
I mean, you start to clear some more land for farming, or you go off the beaten path that hasn't been cleared, and the country's not safe to walk in.
As a matter, as much as I hate the travel.state.gov site due to recent overreactions, I would say there's some interesting points that they bring up about Laos and unexploded ordnance that it's still plaguing the country. It's why mines are terrible, because after the war is settled, mines don't have IFF to determine, oh wait, this kid isn't, an old Viet Cong soldier.
And that's why most countries have made cluster bombs illegal. I don't think the U.S. has signed on to that treaty that made cluster bombs illegal. But
I think we're one of the few that. I think we're moving away from them, but it might be worth a Google. But I'm pretty sure
Yeah, I don't
we
know.
still can use them according to our doctrine.
Yeah.
So
Number one.
Oh, so sorry, I got to get my. I guess I need to do an intro, right? Where am I?
Caddis isn't important.
Yeah, it's kind of important. Brandon, fake girls and default passports. Titulate
No.
us.
Fuck you talking about, boy.
Yeah. So
I'm saying that all of a sudden.
I'll keep it pretty short and to the point. I don't know if any of you have experienced the random text or random like WhatsApp text that goes, "Hey, why is your number in my phone?" Or some variation of the mistaken phone number thing. And a lot of them will try and then like scam you on something. Either it's there's two like main scams. Either they're trying to get personal information and then like extort you with that information. Like for instance, someone will claim to be a girl and claim to be interested in you and send some naughty pictures, and then you're supposed to send them naughty pictures and say naughty things, and then come to find out it's a 300-pound Indian dude named Maharaji, and now all of a sudden it's like, hey, I'm going to post up all of this stuff on your Facebook if you don't pay me money. The other one is just the kind of normal straight up, like, oh, you should sign up for this thing, or you should send me money, or oh, look at me, I'm I'm in this horrible situation and I need help. My pet buffalo is sick, I believe is the term Cody used.
Sick buffalo, not
Sick
pet
buffalo.
buffalo.
Oh, I don't know.
They're hardworking farm animals. Come on.
So I am one of those people that like to play with scammers and spammers, and because I have extra time on my hands and I have a particular skill set that can occasionally come in handy. And
Brandon is the
So-
Liam Neeson of the tech world.
Yes. Except I'm not really that good. So I kind of ran in circles with this one of these fake girls for about 2 days. And there was a couple times where it's like, wow, this is actually kind of a coherent conversation. Like, grammatically it makes sense, like topically it makes sense. So there was a little bit of like, am I being the asshole here?
Fuck, what's that test?
You can.
What's that
you
human
can go
test where you
through
can
it.
test if it's a robot?
Oh, the
What's that term? Fuck. Robot
yes,
test.
the test.
Yeah, I would say give us a breakdown on it.
How did they
We've
contact
got
you?
time
This
for
is
it.
WhatsApp?
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
Is
Go
this
through it.
WhatsApp
We've
or
got
just plenty
time.
of fish?
yeah, no. I mean, that's the other thing is I'm not on any dating websites. I'm currently dating someone here in Gunnison, and that's going well. So I'm not like actively out on any sites. I
Yep.
do still have a WhatsApp because Cody mostly. Um,
You should just use Line instead.
eh. I
No one in
found
this country uses Line.
more annoying, way more annoying. So yeah,
Turing
it was
test. Excuse me. Sorry.
Turing test. Yes. Well, this was definitely a real person, just probably not a real girl. I mean, I guess it's possible. There are girl scammers too, but just yeah.
It's an equal
Would like to-
opportunity employment field, honestly.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. So I get a text. This would have been Friday. Get an actual text on my phone number on my phone in the Android messaging app. And it was like, hey, Ashley, this is Annie. Let's meet back up at that hot pot place that we went to last week. It was delicious. I'll meet you there a little bit early. And so, me being the nice person that I am, I'm like, oh shit, this person needs to know that I'm not Ashley. And she has entered the number wrong. Because I do still occasionally get like real, like random calls, random texts.
Yeah.
It happens. So, I message back, hey, definitely not Ashley. I think you need to check your number. And so she comes back with, oh, hey, I'm so sorry about that. Yep, I think my assistant must have entered the number wrong on this phone. And I'm like, that's a little weird, but okay. And she's like, hey, if you're ever in the New York area, hit me up and I'll buy you coffee. Sorry for bothering you. And it's like, okay, just in the off chance that that this is an actual real person, I'm not going to be the asshole and just cut and run. I'll be, So it's like, oh, well, if you're ever in Telluride, because I didn't want to use my real location, but I wanted it to be close enough that if it were a real person, like, explainable. But it's like, oh yeah, if you're ever in Telluride, let me know and I'll take you out for coffee. And just like, oh hey, do you have WhatsApp? We should talk more on WhatsApp. Get to know each other. It's like, I smell fish, but let's see what kind of fish. So it's like, sure, I have WhatsApp. Oh, what's your WhatsApp number? It's the same as this number. So then she texts me on WhatsApp and a little bit of back and forth, and it's pretty normal, like, hey, what do you do? And hey, what do you do? And so I initially said that I worked for the city of Telluride in their IT department as a senior systems administrator. Specifically called out that I worked in IT. So for any scammer, spammer, malicious actor that has stumbled across this podcast, first of all, find some legitimate work. You'll get
Also
paid
like
much
it.
more.
Also, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Send me a message. I can help
better.
you find legitimate work. Let's make things better rather than make things worse. So
I've had to say, to interrupt you, you know,
Yeah.
my previous occupation, I've had to say to people, oh, I work for the city in quality control, or I work in the city in refuse collection.
yes, that's awesome.
No, those aren't lies.
Yeah.
Those aren't lies.
White lies, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, back to that little PSA. If you are a malicious actor and you see someone say that they are working in IT, just stop. Just that would be the point at which to cut and run and find someone else to play with, for lack of a better term there. Like, yeah. It's a mistake to go up against someone who has
A certain
IT
set of
and
skills.
idle hands.
Who's bored and can fuck with you.
Yup. So, like, it's pretty normal conversation the rest of Friday, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna, take off making dinner for my family. I just said family. And she's like, oh, you have kids? And it's like, yes. But I'm divorced. Oh, sorry to hear about that. And just because I wanted to see what kind of fish she was
Just say
was
this
trying
is
to
pretty
reel in.
impressive so far.
Exactly. It's like it's definitely somebody who is actually typing out the messages. It's not a chat bot. The responses aren't instantaneous. There is delay. You can see the, text pop up, text pop down as they're typing and stopping and thinking. And it's like, okay, so there's a real person controlling this conversation. And it's like, that's kind of cool. And she brought up, oh, okay, I'm going to do some crypto trading, but hit me up when you're ready to talk more. And it's like, aha, aha, there's the red flag, yeah, it's like, okay, I know what way this is going to go. Let's see how much time of theirs I can waste. So I spent the next 2 days basically on and off having little chats with this person. And at one point they were like, oh, I could be your crypto master or your master of crypto or something like that. And so I threw out a horrible joke. The only master I would call master is Obi-Wan Kenobi. And it's like,
Nice.
that was like a 15-minute long gap before
there's a
this
cultural-
person
like, what
came
the
back.
what a fucking nerd.
Oh yeah.
or who is that?
Yeah. Like,
Wait, am
I
I
think
actually
there was
falling in
definitely
love with
some
this guy?
Googling. I think there was actually some Googling going on to be
How do I
like,
type Obi-Wan Kenobi?
what is this? So finally she comes back and she's like, oh, ha, ha, ha. Silly boy, just talking about being your teacher, winky face. And it's like,
Winky face.
Okay.
Ooh.
Winky face. That's trying to pull on those heartstrings to get me interested in this, huh? Okay.
Trying to twitch your winky.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, still, I didn't say
Get
that.
something
Oh my
to
God.
rise
And
to attention.
demonetized.
Yeah.
Love it.
So it's
Who
like,
thought Tim was the dirtiest of all? Anyways.
It's all right.
love
I
it.
can
Just
know
humiliate
that
myself.
on this podcast.
I love it.
oh, absolutely.
That's going in the TikTok.
Okay.
So yeah, and I'm like, I don't know, I don't really understand crypto. I don't invest in things that I don't understand. And she's like, well, let me teach you. And I'm like, send me some information. I figured that would be when, the sign up for this or do this would come in, unless it was a straight up like they're wanting me to buy into like a pump and dump or something like that. And it's like, eh. And so finally yesterday, I'm just kind of, there was a little bit of conversation the day before about her going shopping, and then there was this kind of like weird jitter between conversations. There was like this sharp kind of turn to the conversation where all of a sudden we were talking about ATVs. And she sent me a picture of this ATV that she supposedly rode somewhere. And so I download that image, do a reverse image Google search,
Yeah.
and lo and behold, it's one of the freely available like Shutterstock images of an ATV. And I'm like, oh yeah, totally. Yep. I'm fishing you right on back. Come on, let's do this. And so then that conversation just kind of stopped. And then the next morning there was like a, good morning, how's it going? What are you up to today? And then like nothing for a couple hours. Finally, towards the end of the day, I get a message that's from a different number going, hey, do you know who this is? And it's like, I don't know this number. Oh, it's Annie. Ha ha ha. This is my personal number. And it's
Things
like
getting serious with Annie.
Yeah, it's like, oh, so your other number was what? Your work number? Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, hey, I'm looking at the Australian crypto market right now, and it's looking really good. And it's like, Australian crypto market, eh? Interesting.
Aussie
okay.
coin.
Yeah.
Dingo coin.
Dingo ate my baby coin. Like, it's like, okay. It's like, oh, really? And she's like, yeah, it's looking good. I might try and do some trading here in a little bit. Do you want to learn? And it's like, yeah. Where do I go? And she's like, oh, it's going to be this exchange. And I can't remember what exchange. She's like, but let me send you a personalized link. And I'm like, okay. And so I look up this exchange, and it's a real exchange. It's like looked in the Better Business Bureau. Like it's legit. It's not one of the main ones, but
For every good lie, they're always based off
Elements of
truth.
Elements
Yes,
of truth.
they have
It
to be.
legitimized
Otherwise,
it.
it's just
Oh,
Yep.
Or an attempt to.
It must be a phishing link.
yes. So they sent a link that was the name of the exchange.com, but there was an 8 tacked on at the end of the exchange. That was it. That was the difference. Was the number 8. So I clicked on it, but of course I took proper security precautions because I am a professional. So I remoted into my home server, spun up a sandbox environment, had a VPN running on the host machine so that the virtual machine thinks that it has a direct connection to the internet. And because there's new ways in modern browsers that you can actually verify if someone's on a VPN or not. There's certain VPNs that can still kind of skirt it, which is why Netflix can still work in some locations with certain VPNs. But other ones, Hulu is notoriously bad about being like, you're on a VPN. And it's like, Anyway, so VPN'd the machine, the host machine, rather than the virtual machine. That way the virtual machine is going to report, oh no, I've got a totally clean connection. I really am in Texas. Just because, yep, Texas. Why not? Actually, with my new internet company, for some reason, that is my closest hop. Weird. Anyway.
See, I'm surprised because now you're not in Telluride.
Yeah, I know, but
They don't care.
Yeah, it's not.
Nobody
details.
was really
You're a
paying
sucker.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're a sucker.
I'm a rube.
and they know
I'm
it.
a rube.
Yep.
Yep. And it's like, okay, so log into this sandbox machine, which is basically just a fresh image with some forensics tools on it. that I can delete and reload at the drop of a hat. And go to the link immediately. Microsoft Edge, because I use Edge. Microsoft Edge comes up, it has the big triangle warning, site is not secure, and then it says error authenticating the cert.
Security certificate, yeah.
Yep. SSL not secure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, interesting. Okay, so this should have stopped most people from continuing, unless they're just, no.
They're in love with this woman.
Exactly. And so I'm like, I want to look at the cert a little bit more. I want to see how they tried to fake it. Well, there was a way about 3 or 4 years ago that you could actually inject a little bit of code into your cert file. And what it does is it takes your domain that your computer is a part of and ties that in as the certificate authority. And 3 or 4 years ago, it would have actually worked. 3 or 4 years ago, it would have read the domain, which I have all my sandbox instances on their own internal domain, just because why not? Then I can play with running a red forest domain, which is a whole different topic. Anyway, so yeah, I've got this internal, it's draxplayground.local, and in the certificate it said the certificate authority was draxplayground.local. And it's like, I know what you're trying to do, and yeah, 3 or 4 years ago that would have worked. And it's like, okay, I'm just curious, once you get past this site, does it actually look like the Exchange site? So I hit advanced, go on through, and sure enough, it is near duplicate, except there's a little bit of grammar issues, like down in the fine print on the bottom of the page. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. This still isn't quite right. Looked at the base code, super simple HTML. It's like, okay. Click on the create account. Look again at the source information. And I'm like, this to me looks like it's setting up to cull the information out of this form and send it somewhere that is not this server. And it's like, okay, I think at this point I've played enough. I'm going to call them on their bluff, and if they cut and run, I'm done. Not a big deal. I do not need to push it further than this. So, texted this lady back. I was like, hey, nice try. Whoever does your IT deserves to be working for a real company, because this exploit with the SSL cert would have worked about 3 or 4 years back. But that that exploit has been patched, and yeah, you're trying to scam me. I've found you out. You're done. Thanks for playing. Thanks for being more interesting than all of the other scams that I've played with so far. Bye-bye. Sorry.
And that gong
wow,
is the symbol.
I love the gong.
The
Like,
conversation
you've
about
been Dracanist, motherfucker.
Bam! What now? And so I hang out in that chat just long enough to be like, I wonder what they're going to reply. And you can see the pop of like typing and then down and then typing and then down and typing and down. Like, it took probably a good 5 minutes before they sent by, I don't know what you're talking about. And so I went back to the site,
TWIL,
took a picture of their thing, took a picture of their cert, and then sent that. And I'm like, this is an obvious attempt to fish for information. Because, like, they were asking for social security number and like
Mhm.
everything. And it's like, this is an obvious fake. And immediately, you sick motherfucker, and like just profanities. And just calling me a sick MFer and saying F me, and I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, and why would I play with her heart like that? And it's like, no.
Sorry, baby.
So
Okay,
I
Sandeep.
block it on WhatsApp, and I'm getting ready to close out my sandbox environment. And then my phone actually, they swap to my normal messaging on my phone and start blowing me up with F you, you MFer. And it's just like, I don't understand why they're hating this much. But if they really want to have a hate on for me, let's do something that they'll hate back. So, immediately, if you are trying to hack something, not that I'm telling you how to hack, don't do what I did. I was stupid. You immediately do a IP lookup to see what IP address that website's being hosted on. It came back to a Pakistani range. So, coming from Pakistan, you can then further narrow that down using a list that I know about that will then tell you if that IP address is currently basically leased to any hosting providers. That IP was not leased to any hosting providers. And it's like, I wonder if they're self-hosting. Let me do a port scan and see what ports they have open on this IP address. They had SSH open, which is the layer to get in and start a command line session. And it's like, fuck it, why not? Let's see. Let's see if I can SSH into this. Threw out a SSH connection request, and I get a response. And it prompts me. And it's a Raspberry Pi. And it's like, oh, please
Default.
tell me that they haven't changed their default username and password for root. They didn't. Username Pi, password Raspberry. And I'm just like, and I'm in and I'm looking at directories and I'm just like, are you serious? Okay. I don't want to damage their hardware because that could be illegal. But if I cause them to lose a little bit of data, whatever. So I changed the administrator password for the Pi root account to something that is basically uncrackable. They're going to have to fully reimage the device. I then delete out every other authorized user in the list. And then I go in and I delete out the website that they're hosting. And I made sure that it was this fake exchange website.
You took down the real exchange site. That'd be funny.
It's running on a Raspberry Pi.
Wouldn't that suck? That would just be like a, well,
that's kind of your fault. That's your guys' fault.
yeah. So I deleted that out. And I sent the person, I don't know why, because during this entire time while I'm just like messing with their system, they're still like rotating hits. Oh, and I forgot, the first message that they sent on that phone number was them telling me that my daughter was dead because of a car accident and I needed to come to the side of the highway. And it's like, oh,
Yeah,
damn.
no. It's time to use that certain set of skills.
Yeah, they did that, and then there was a thing about like me not being able to please my wife, which is why she left, and now she's getting gang raped in a prison, and that one was weird, and I just had to laugh at the absurdity of it. Of like, I don't see why.
That's kind of weird. And like, if a person who has an ex-wife, if they really didn't like their ex-wife, they might take pleasure in part of that anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Like, if that was a thing that was really happening, I would be very concerned and I would call the police. But, in a fake, like, this random spammer from Pakistani sent me a threat, like,
Yeah.
who the hell are you?
Yeah.
You don't even know anything. Because for this entire process, I called myself Brad. I was Brad.
Mm.
And there was never a request for like Facebook information or anything like that. Because I've played with some of those other scammers that they start like getting into the real personal questions, and it's like,
yeah, they start.
No.
Yeah.
when requests for my Facebook page or requests for pictures pop up, that is the cut and run, because I don't want to deal with you.
Mm-hmm.
But tech scammers, I will sit and waste their time all day long and love every minute of it. But so this guy is sending me just like all of this horrible stuff, and as I'm waiting for like certain actions to happen, I just send him back. It's like, I don't understand why you hate me so much for realizing that you're scamming.
Yeah, you haven't even done anything bad.
but-
You just realized that. Yeah.
Now though, might want to take a look at your website.
You should have just sent the YouTube video. The website is down. Back.
Oh, I should have put in a fucking redirect.
Oh, that would have been brilliant.
Just a redirect to Rick Astley. Just never gonna give you
Or the fraud hotline or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh well, maybe next time. Although I should probably not do this again. But anyway. And they're just like sending profanity after profanity. And I'm just like, all right, yep, I've had my fun now. I have taken down their website. Now, granted, if they had any sort of like backup, or if they were smart at all, there would literally be an SD card that they would pull out of the turn the Raspberry off, pull an SD card, put the next SD card in, power the site back up, and they would have been back up and running. Mm-hmm. When I checked last night, like 3 hours later, their site was still down. So I think they were not smart, did not have a backup, and were trying to figure out what the hell I did. But it was literally just delete users, delete the one file of content on there that was the website.
Well, they may have set up again and still not changed the password. You should go check again.
I don't know. Like, if I'm an inconvenience for a day, I don't think that anybody's going to be like $5,000 bounty on Brad and Telluride.
Or Brad and Telluride.
Inconvenience
Brad in Texas or wherever the hell. But they're looking for Ashley. What the fuck?
Inconvenience them every day so you can save more victims.
Nah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
No
like, it's cool that
sympathy.
you did that. They're probably going to do better next time. I would hope. I mean, or they're not, and they don't care because they.
I don't know.
Honestly, they probably get enough people that fall for it. They don't care.
Yeah.
Well,
and
care
that's
enough
kinda-
to flood somebody with profanities, so they definitely do care. Like, that's the part about it that's interesting, is it's like, it would be one thing if they just, there wasn't any response, like, okay, I'm moving, like, systematic, like, I'm just moving on to the next person. But no, now there's, like,
yeah, that's true. They keep
definitely,
they
like,
got
a
you
human
far.
element
It's weird
to
that they
this.
took this over multiple days and.
Well, and then
They thought they had one and they're getting all excited.
yeah, well, and that's kind of the thing Cody and I were talking about last night. Is it's like that jump from one number to the next.
Yeah.
They brought me back in, theoretically trusting them, because they're like, yeah, see, this is the picture of the ATV that I sent you yesterday that I rode in this place.
Yeah, you were
And
passed
it's
on
like-
to the guy, somebody else to do the finishing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now I'm done playing. Now I've hit level 2.
Mm-hmm.
bring me the tech stuff. Bring me your tech stuff. Show me what you got.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was, I don't know, it was very interesting. And then I just, like, the cherry on top was just like the last message I sent was like, hey, again, I don't understand the hate coming from you, but, you know, understand that I wish you no ill will. I have no threats for you. I hope that you have I hope that you find, what did I say? Not lucrative. Legitimate,
prosperity. Okay.
legitimate work with a family, and find a family who you love and loves you back, and that you have a long, happy, and healthy life. And then that's where I...
And because right now, with your karma, your second life is going to be the shits.
Yeah.
Okay, beat that last word out, Cody.
Fuck no, he can't.
These guys.
That's
get
bullshit. Fucking murder.
Yeah.
We're allowed to cuss. It's encouraged.
Yes. Fuck yes, it is.
That's
But yeah, I don't know. That was just a very interesting end of the day of just like, wow, that went from like, you know, they could have literally just stopped, like never responded after I said, hey, you're caught.
Mm-hmm.
But no.
Sometimes
no,
they
had to
bring you back and convince you. Oh no.
Yeah,
But,
and it's like, okay. As soon as like the fake, like, and it wasn't even like threats. It was just like fake, you know, horrible statements that they were sending out. Like those first 3 statements. It was just like, okay. And you know what? This is when you have pushed me, and now I'm going to finish this fight. I'm going to knock your server down and be done with it. And when it was that freaking easy, it's like, are you serious? Default fucking passwords. If anyone is running a default password on anything, it doesn't matter if it's a toaster or your dog's smart water bowl.
So many
For
people
the
have it on their
love
routers.
of God, change it.
see to me like if you have someone, if you're a hacker, white, black, gray hat, whatever, and you see that's like a vampire being invited into the house. It's the same fucking thing. Like, come on.
Yeah. One of my research papers when I was in college was on gray hat hackers, and my teacher was like, I don't understand what this is. And it's like, this, in a nutshell, this is me. Like, I'm not a paid white hat professional. I do not work for a company that is doing this, but I will mess around and see if a system has good security. And now, granted, I don't go onto Google and I'm like, hey, let's see what kind of weird shit we can do with Google or Amazon but
Yeah.
like
Penetration testing. It's fun.
Yeah. So
You dastardly
Yes.
dog, you.
yes, that was so much fun. And I got
I
so
remember
much.
back in a previous job that I kind of sent something to somebody's printer to an
Fuck,
organized
you should have did that.
crime guy. I printed up some interesting stuff for them at the time.
Nice.
I can't believe it. Open share.
Yeah, I still remember being in the field with a wireless card, and a certain auto dealership in our town didn't have any of their network stuff secured. That was, Cantenna for the fun back in 2002.
Oh yeah. Pringles antenna for the win.
Worked better than the
Oh, yeah.
aluminum can one, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I think
Okay.
it's time to do the Mountain Dew, as your shirt says.
What to do? It'll tickle your innards.
Okay.
I thought you were rubbing your
does
nipples
that
there,
mean?
but I guess I'll go first for pluggables.
That's a little
What kind of
lower
episode is this?
than
Just saying. Hacking. Anyways.
And Hacker Shore.
Hell yeah. But my name is Colton Roper. You can find me most everywhere on the internet as Seeker4761. Definitely on all the socials is that. I also stream pretty regularly to twitch.tv/Seeker4761. Yeah. It's my life. So, Tim.
My name is Tim Rhind, and as a hobby, I do YouTube videos at the ID or channel ID of Our Thai Journey. We also have Instagram, but we seldom use it because I'm always doing video and I forget to take photos. And Cody.
I am Cody Stratman, also known as Psychonitrous, also known as Zito Valder on Instagram. I do sometimes use it, and then I yell about it because it's complicated to try and use it on computer. You can, but you have to be weird about it in order to get it to upload. Why? Nobody knows. I'm sure some people know, and I could fill a long time episode about my feelings about it. Anyway, that's me. Those are my feelings. They're not good regarding Instagram, but I still use it, so I guess they win anyway. Brandon, save the audience.
I am Brandon Vader, also known as Captain Dracanus.
Or Ashley.
Huh?
And Ashley.
Oh, and apparently Ashley and Brad from Telluride. So, sure. Yeah, you can find me. I am trying to get most of my stuff to line up with Captain Dracanus on the socials. Still a ways away from that, and I still need to stream. I now have good internet and haven't streamed yet because, yeah, I need to set OBS back up. But anyway, enough about that. You can find me on The Tech Pirate and as The Tech Pirate on YouTube. Thanks for joining us on this episode of This Week I'm Learning. You can find us wherever you listen to your social... Jesus. I swear, I've only had half of that. I don't know why.
A lot of people listen to their own social media.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's try that again. Thanks for joining us on this episode of This Week I'm Learning. You can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts, as well as on YouTube at This Week I'm Learning. For your social media peeps out there, you can find us on Twitter at ThisTWIL. If you'd like to contact us, you can, of course, send an email to twil@thetechpirate.net. See you next week!
Bye.
Bye-bye.
One of my favorite TikToks I've ever seen was a gray hat hacker who apparently he got a scammer who actually called him, and he was talking to someone who was obviously using a female voice modulator. Oh. So what he did, he kept the person on the phone, and then he actually was able to do kind of a similar thing. He was able to, a bit more complicated, but the same basic concept. And he hacked into them to kind of figure out where they are, and at the same time, it was one of those ones that they want to get access to your computer. Mm-hmm. So he did the same thing. He built up a sandbox and everything, and he let them have access. And he kept messing with they were kind of trying to get him to like unlock it so it's hackable and so on and so forth. And he was just fucking with the mouse and stuff like that, just as they were trying to do their thing. And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, my mouse is just kind of iffy." And then the best thing he did, because he's like, hang on one sec. So he went to the internet. He was able to figure out exactly where these people are, not just their IP address, their address. Ooh. And what he did, he went to Google Maps. He typed in that address, and then he zoomed in like to Street View and be like, "Is this where you live?" And then like they got scared, and they were still talking in the female voice modulator, and then they pressed a button or something, and then I think it was in Indian, and they were talking, and they're like, "Oh my god, he figured out where the hell we were! Oh my fucking god!" Ah! Then they cut it off. I laughed so. I was like, "That is so funny." I love when those hackers get with the like. Come on, don't be a dick.
Oh yeah.
Or like, there's a lot of people that are a lot smarter than they used to be. And if you're gonna fucking throw a line out, sometimes you're gonna get a shark.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna
assuming you're fishing
boat.
in the ocean. Bitter boat.
I mean.
There's a good there's a good YouTube channel that's all the guy does is hack these guys.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, and then there's one where he stole money from them. Like he figured a way out to like steal money from them as he's trying, he was supposed to be getting them gift cards to turn around. And
God, I wish I had that skill. That is such a useful skill in the world.
Right?
To be that level of I'm sure it was something simple. Be like, what, you left it on default password. Of all things, that's security 101. You're the ones that are hacking other people. Fuck it. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Silly.
No, my normal thing is when they get to a certain point, I just all of the just like face palm interactions that I have had in the past with like real users of them like going, well, my internet's not working. And this, and that. And then come to find out, like, their entire fucking house is unpowered. Yeah. Cody.
So many internet issues are actually power issues.
My internet's not working. You guys suck. Well, the internet's not working for everybody in the entire valley, so what do you want us to do?
Working. My email's not working. Oh no, your internet isn't working.
But the email is different.
I have the power strip. I have the power strip plugged into itself and turned on.
Oh god.
Power strips provide. Yeah, that was my favorite. Is a game that I was Final Fantasy 11, and it was one of my guild mates that was working for like Dowler Gateway. And that was their like ultimate story, is the old lady that had the power strip plugged into itself because power strips provide power. Solve the world energy problem.
Understandable if you're an old lady, but come on.
Power strips provide power.
Or better yet, when hello, this is Bob from Microsoft. And it's like, oh hey Bob,
sure, Bob.
Microsoft support. Oh,
yeah.
Wow. I've been meaning to... You know what you should do is just start asking them all sorts of questions about Windows that you've always wanted to ask.
Or, like, go really high into, like, Active Directory and shit like that.
Yeah. Like, wow, I've been meaning to get a hold of you for such a long time. It's
finally
so difficult to get a hold of Microsoft.
As they cream their pants because, like, this person's a fucking idiot.
Here's a good one. Yeah, we can get him.
Yeah. No, usually those ones
what
I'm
window?
like,
what's a window?
I don't have a computer. I have an iPad. What's a computer?
I use Windows 3.1. So can you help me with that?
Well, that's not what my start bar looks like.
Oh fuck.